So I'm going to give you a full market breakdown of the reason why I'm still anticipating for the USD card to go to the upside. Now, if we go to the daily time frame, you can see that we created a low, a high, a low, and then this high right here broke the previous high, closed above it. We saw the retest, break of structure above the high. So after the break of structure above the high right here, we're anticipating for a retest down here. So price came back down for a retest, but the reason we didn't really want to jump into this trade was because of this wick. We wicked the previous 15 minutes high. We wicked this key level. I didn't like that wick. And if we look at the daily, we wicked it and it was kind of like a mitigation on the inefficiency. So I wanted to see more confirmation on the trade. That was why I was waiting to see a 5 minute shift of market structure from the key level. And right here, the 5 minute shift. But as you can see, the news spiked price to the upside. So despite the spike to the upside, we're not just going to randomly jump into the market in anticipation for this to keep going to the upside. What we can do is to be patient enough and wait to see how price is going to come back into our key level, which is right here, because this was the high, the low, and the break. So if we don't come in here, then there's no point trying to get into this trade. So this is all I'm waiting to see on USD card. So let's look at the dollar as well. So for the dollar, you can see the dollar with the news. The dollar went to the downside. So for the dollar, we're still on this. We're still on, as you can see, this is our low, high, low, high, low, high, low, and our high, right? So until we break this low, the structure still remains bullish on the dollar. So as long as this low right here hasn't been violated, don't be surprised to still see the dollar go to the upside to run this buy side liquidity. So that is why I'm not really so much in a haste to jump into any sell on USDXXX pairs, because despite the fact that it could continue to the downside, but it's not a certainty for that to happen because nobody knows what the market is eventually going to do. The only thing we're doing is participating and looking for opportunities to get into the market. And right here, even this low right here, even this low can also be taken. Price can also take this low and still rally above this high to run the buy side liquidity. Price can also run this low and run the buy side liquidity as well. It's very possible. That is why I'm not really in a haste to jump into the markets for trades. I'm waiting patiently. So for euro, what I'm looking out to see on the euro is let me pull up a different chart. So even though my chart may look a little bit complicated, but I'm just gonna break it down what I'm looking at. So right here we're on the 4 hour time frame, and as you can see, we've consistently been trending to the downside on the 4 hour time frame, and we're having a 60-day look back. So right here, 60-day look back, you can see we created a high right here within that 60-day look back, and then we drop down, and then we look at the 40-day look back. Right here, we run liquidity and then we'll drop down. Then we'll look at the 20-day look back. You can still see how we run liquidity and then we'll drop down. So we're in a current price action now. And right here, you can see right here, we have an inefficiency. So price could be targeting this inefficiency. This inefficiency could be acting as a drawn liquidity to attract price into that position because this is a 4 hour inefficiency. So if we do come into that inefficiency, it's something to be on the lookout for because if we do see some level of rejection after tapping that inefficiency right here, if we do see price tap into it and reject of that position, breaking a 15 minutes low, we could potentially be looking for a retest and then a drop down, and we can look for the low hanging fruit areas where price could potentially come into after tapping that position. So areas we could look out for could be like this inefficiency here. We could be looking at this inefficiency to be our take profit position. So, but for us to look for that, we're definitely gonna have to see a shift in market structure on the 15 minutes time frame after price taps into that position. But if we don't see that, we're just gonna be on the sidelines. So for dollar is still going to the downside, and we're still watching it closely to see whether we're gonna run through this low or whether price just wants to run the intrastructural low liquidity resting right there. So we look at USD card as well. So for USD card, as you can see on USD card, we still didn't close above this high, and it's kind of making it seem like a very complicated price action because if we had closed above this high, the buys would have been a much more higher probability. But not closing above this high just makes it so it makes it a little bit complicated because this could be a run on liquidity because on daily, right here on daily, we have this inefficiency we mitigated. But what we do in a case like this, in a situation like this, one thing we can do is to focus more on what the dollar is doing, right? Because so far it seems like the dollar it's either hunting for liquidity or hunting for areas to break structure because it's either will run liquidity from this low or will break this structure. That is what it's looking like. And if we break this structure, then that means dollar could potentially go down and euro could continue higher. But if we run the liquidity, then it means this high will be the next target. So personally, I still would like to see more higher prices in the dollar. That's what I personally like to see in the marketplace. So we look at gold as well. Gold, this is my drawn liquidity on gold. I'm anticipating for gold to rally above this high. And so far, as you can see, it's very close to that area. So if we rally above this high, then I'll be watching it closely because this is an extreme premium zone and this is discount and this is liquidity. The liquidity is resting directly below the extreme premium zone. So if we run this liquidity and then we start seeing like 15-minute shift in market structure, then we could anticipate for sales. But if we run this liquidity and keep going to the upside to even run this overall high, that could be a potential shift in market structure because this is the 4 hour time frame. And breaking a 4 hour high is quite a significant time frame. So we're at 8:44. We have about 1 minute, and then we see whether there's been a complete break of structure on USD card. So for the dollar is still where it was. Nothing really much going on with the dollar, just consistently trending to the downside. So that is all I'm looking at the marketplace to see right now. And GBP the key level I outlined last week on GBP being this position. I'm still waiting patiently to see price come in there, and so far it's been retracing very nicely. So we just have to wait and see. So now we are at 8:45. Go back to 15 minutes time frame. So on the 15 minutes time frame, we've not closed above this high, but we're going to be watching this zone very, very closely because if we're going to be bullish, then I would like to see a retest here. So what we can do is we can wait for further more confirmation. So rather than placing limit orders right here, we place an alert here and wait for 5 minute shift to market structure. So whenever it is price eventually comes in here and we see a 5 minute shift to market structure, then we can potentially look for buys and continue to the upside because I still want to see this key level, this trend line liquidity get swept, this inefficiency. I'd like to see price move towards that section. And overall, I'm still looking at so Euro USD has tapped our key level. So overall, I'm still looking at this inefficiency to act as my overall drawn liquidity on USD card to come to the upside. So let's look at so price is currently tapped into the daily inefficiency, into the 4 hour inefficiency that I outlined. The next thing we now wait to see is whether there's going to be a displacement to the downside or a continuation to the upside. So if we do see a displacement to the downside to break a 15 minutes low, then that means we could potentially be looking for sells on euro and buys for USD card and other USD XXX pairs. But if we don't see this, then it certainly means that price just wants to take off and it's not going to give us that opportunity that we're looking for. So this is all we're going to be waiting for right now. So for dollar, I'm not surprised if we take this liquidity. So this liquidity is just so close right now, and price can potentially take this liquidity. So if we take it and still continue higher, I won't be surprised for this high to get swept. But if we take this key level and also run this other position as well, breaking below it like this, we break and close below it, then all I want to see would be potential retest and just continue lower. Or even this position, because this position right here, it's untapped right here. It's actually untapped. So, and it's the similar position that Euro US dollar just tapped into. You can see that right there. So Euro US dollar tapped into the inefficiency, very similar price action on the dollar, but dollar hasn't tapped that position. Dollar is very lethargic in going to the downside to tap into that position. So for USD card, it's still going to the upside. USD card, I was anticipating for a run on stops right here. There's liquidity resting here, right here. I was anticipating for price to run them all out before reversing, but you can see how close it came to that position. And after coming that close, it just reversed. It didn't even tap into that position. So let's look at the cryptos as well to see if there's been any impact on them as well with the news. For Bitcoin, still creating new highs, almost hitting 53,000. Like I said last week, this position right here is going to be a resistance key level. I talked about this last week. If price comes in here, this is the only place I'm going to see some level of resistance. And the moment we smash through it, I like to see price use it as support. And this right here is going to be the next draw on liquidity, 60,000. And if this position doesn't send us to the downside for retracement, then I'd like to see it smash through, use the support, and then new all-time high on Bitcoin will be inevitable. So this is all I'm looking forward to see on Bitcoin as well. Nothing really much else. Ethereum almost hitting 3,000. So for Ethereum, likewise, this high is my next draw on liquidity. And after running that high, I will anticipate for us to use here as a support, all-time high, inevitable. So for BNB seems to be the very slow one, but um, just don't allow the slow movement in BNB to make you feel like this is not priming for a huge run, because BNB could basically outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum when it wants to start expanding higher. And one of the reasons is something I talked about in the previous live stream, the low resistance positions right here, liquidity right here, low resistance key levels, low resistance highs. Price can easily run these highs. And if price should run this high easily, that would be like almost 100% move to the upside for BNB. So a lot of coins are really performing well. Vector Space AI performing well as well, doing 20% in one day, tapped into the inefficiency, expanded higher. Safe Haven, not really much today, 3%. DSLA protocol, negative. So if I was to get back into DSLA protocol, I'll anticipate for that to come here. And as long as we're bullish, this key level will be the last line of defense before an impulse move to potentially take this highs. That's the only place I see this going to. And after that position, the next place would be right here. So I'm just going to be watching these ones very closely to see if price is going to potentially come to my key levels. And I'll look for entries, whether it's going to be for investing or trading. So Euro keeps expanding higher. USD likewise keeps expanding higher as well. So you can see the crack in correlation today. USD is going higher and dollar is going lower. Both are supposed to be moving in tandem. If USD is going higher, dollar should be going higher as well. But in this case, dollar going lower, USD going higher. So this is not really the highest probability days to trade, if I'm being honest. It's a low probability day to trade, in as much as you can still catch a good trade that will deliver profit today. But it's just high risk, because USD and the dollar need to be moving in tandem because they are correlated. But in this case, USD is moving in tandem with Euro. It's moving up in tandem with Euro US dollar. So what does that tell you? That tells you there's a crack in correlation. And I still want to see more higher prices on US dollar, but at the same time, this impulse move and this impulse displacement, it doesn't align, and It makes the trade low probability. So I'm gonna be watching this closely, and if I do see anything interesting, I'm still gonna share with you all. If I do see a high probability setup, I'm gonna still let you all know. And if it isn't high probability, and I still think maybe we just get in on it, I'm still gonna let you know that it's a high risk trade. So you can make sure not to over leverage and use minimal risk on this trade. So I appreciate you all for tuning in, and I'll talk to you on the next live stream. Have an amazing day, everyone.